Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. I've been thinking a lot about dust lately. Some of you might know, some may not, that my mom died about 4 months ago. She was 93. She died at home, as she wished, in my childhood home, and the house where she had lived for more than 50 years. You can imagine how much dust there is. She was in home hospice at the end. It was, as I like to say, her third tour in hospice. She got kicked out the first 2 times for still being alive. Even in her final hospice experience, she lingered for many months longer than one is usually allowed to stay. God bless, and let us all say a prayer for hospice workers. Amen. Over those months and years, I watched my mom slowly decline. She lost mobility. Her mind became less sharp. She ate less and less. She shrank from life, literally and figuratively. I watched as she changed from body and flesh, gradually becoming more ash and dust. Anyone else go through this process with someone? Yeah. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. At the end, my mom lived in a hospital bed in the living room. It became a dying room, and yet also still a living room. On one of the last times I visited, not the final time, but a few months before, I sat next to my mom in that living room, that dying room. One thing you should know about my mom is that she had always been a huge sports fan. She loved watching her New York Giants football team. Any Giants fans? Nope. Rare breed in Boston, okay. She loved watching Olympic figure skating. And she loved watching tennis. And on that visit, it coincided with the French Open men's final. And for 5.5 hours, no exaggeration, longest finals match in history, we watched Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner move their bodies back and forth on the tennis court. It was one of the longest and most amazing sporting events I've ever watched in my life, and I also watch a lot of sports. The athletes sweat and strained. They kicked up red clay dust on the court. They won points, they lost points. They had huge moments of ecstasy and gigantic moments of heartbreak. It was thrilling. Kind of like life, right? Also kind of like death. And somewhere in the midst of this remarkable achievement of athleticism and bodies, something shattered between my mom and me. Years of disappointment and hurt and anger in both directions dissipated. It blew away like dust in the wind. When the final was over, we both felt, at least for that instant, only joy and amazement at this shared experience, this human capacity kind of beyond belief. We marveled together at life at its peak. I was amazed at this shared experience where abundant life and near death existed so close to each other, feet away from each other. Parents and children and families, what complications we are. Amen? Bodies and life and death, what complexities we are. Amen? Faith and hope and love, what mysteries they are. We contain multitudes, and so does life, and so does our reading for tonight. The Gospel of Matthew quotes Jesus preaching to the people. Pray, but not in public. Give alms, but don't sound the trumpets. Fast, but don't look dismal. Even in the midst of your penitence, wash your face, brush your hair. Today, we can and we do hope for the shattering of boundaries, the places that separate us. Today, we can and we do pray for the breaking open of hearts, the melting of hearts. We can fast, and we can wash our faces. We can brush our hair. We can turn toward each other. We can live like reconciliation has already happened. Perhaps it has. Perhaps it will. This Ash Wednesday, I invite us to die like we are living and to live like we are dying. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return.